Okay, come on in. Come on in and have a seat. So first of all, welcome and thanks for everybody who came to this room today, but we also have several sites across the laboratory that are participating with us today. Thank you all. In fact, we were going to actually, of course, have this moment about a week ago when we had our day off from smoke. So we're pleased to have this, be able to make the time for this. So we're brought together today to spend a few moments reflecting on tolerance and what is the thing that primes us to do this? Well, on the one hand, our society has had many examples of intolerance and how it has led to violence recently. But we also should reflect the fact that those headline items are not all that we're talking about. We're talking about the day-by-day effects of intolerance and what it has on the people in our society and at times the people at our laboratory. So this is a chance for us to make the simple statement that tolerance is a cornerstone of the culture of this laboratory, of the diversity, equity, and inclusion that we aspire to. I would like to take a note to take time to recognize our employee research groups, who are really the people who are the push behind us today, and that they're an important cornerstone for us of our diversity, equity, and inclusion. And by the way, they're here and they're also recruiting. So if you see somebody, it's okay to use this as a recruitment opportunity. So talk to your ERG representatives to learn about a group that is, and you know, it can just be a group that you're interested in participating with. Before going into this, I also want to introduce Craig Malkarski, who's the director of the UC Employee Assistance, with whose day would like to speak today about free services offered by this group. So I'll just hand you my mic. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. So I wanted to first just thank you for inviting me to be part of this event, to just have a couple minutes to talk about our services. So one of the things about kind of global and community events or acts of intolerance that we know from how we kind of handle that as human beings, that over longer periods of time, we're actually quite resilient, and we actually adapt quite well as people over time with how we handle these things. But in shorter time horizons, they can be quite intense, be stressful, traumatic, even somewhat debilitating at times. And so one of the most important things we can do as people is connect with each other. And so I, again, appreciate the opportunity that the workplace and the lab is taking to connect as a community. It's often important to connect kind of to our nuclear families, to our social support systems, to our colleagues, our kind of neighborhoods, whatever it may be. And sometimes it includes connecting to a professional kind of medical community. And so I just wanted to highlight kind of our services and make sure everyone's aware that it's one additional option and resource that you all have to take advantage of if needed. So the information we provide is just a little bit about the Employee Assistance Program. There's a few key things to know. It's free, it's confidential, and it's voluntary, so there's no costs whatsoever to access us. It's also professional, so all of the staff that you would be able to meet with are licensed mental health professionals. We also have additional understanding and background particular to kind of the culture of research and what it means to work at a lab or in academic settings. We are available by telephone or in person to make appointments, and all of partners and significant others are also eligible to use the services through the lab benefit. So it's a great thing offered through the lab. Wanted to highlight just to make sure people knew we were available. There's more information that people can pick up, certainly after the event as well. So thanks so much for having me. Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Greg. So the last thing before we have our moment of silence, I just want to say another thing that's happened for us here, and it's not quite the tolerance we're talking about, but there's been a devastating wildfire and loss to our neighbors in the last couple of weeks. One of the really, and for many people here at the lab who have experienced these fires in the past, or many of the rest of us who have been, have realized how difficult this has been. So we should not forget the fact that there are many in our community that have really taken a horrible loss from this, and keep them in our thoughts as well. So with this, I'll stop talking and say, please take your light and turn it on, and we'll have a moment of silence. I'll sit down. Thank you. And let me just say the last thing, although we have organizations, we have groups to bring this message and how to accomplish our diversity, equity, and inclusion at the laboratory. In the end, it mostly depends on each and every one of us to exercise this in our life and at work every day, and how we interact with people, even on those days when we don't really feel much like it. And so that's probably more important than anything else we can do, is how we interact with the people around us. So thank you all very much for joining us today. Let me express again my appreciation to the employee resource groups for bringing this to our attention, for making this work, and for all they do for helping us achieve the culture we want at the laboratory. Thanks very much.